This is the I Will Teach You a Language podcast, episode 149.
Welcome to the I Will Teach You a Language podcast. Weekly motivation and language learning tips to help you become fluent in any language. Now, here's your host, Olly Richards.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. Fantastic to have you here. It's been a while. I've been struggling with consistency a bit recently with the podcast, with a lot of traveling going on and other things. But I just thought I'd sit down and record this episode for you now. I'm actually talking to you from my hotel room in New York. I'm staring out of the window looking at the Empire State Building right now, lit up in the night sky. Beautiful sight. And I'm just in New York for a couple of days. And I flew in this afternoon, actually. Took a flight from London this morning and arrived here a few hours ago. And, usually the flight to New York isn't too bad. It's a daytime flight, so usually I kind of have the energy to go out in the evening a little bit. But I just felt a bit tired today, and I thought instead of going out, I thought I'd sit and talk to you guys because I miss talking to you guys. It's been I don't like it when I take a little breaks like I have recently. Consistency, as we know, with language learning is the name of the game, and so I tried to bring this idea of consistency to everything I do, whether it's writing blog articles, going to the gym, or podcasting. And so what I thought I'd do today, because I'm in a kind of a pensive mood, and I always find that traveling makes you think and reflect on your life, is I thought I would look back on the last few months since my trip to Thailand to learn Thai and talk a little bit about what's happened over the last few months and hopefully some of the things that you might be able to learn from my own experience. Before that, though, very quickly, I'd like to take a second to thank very much the sponsors of the show, the wonderful iTalki. And if you are looking for a language teacher or a tutor of any kind in any language, then I thoroughly recommend iTalki. You can get a free lesson by going to iwillteachyoualanguage.com/free lesson. And if you've heard this message a few times and you've never actually done that, then I really recommend you do, and we'll be talking a little bit in this episode about why that is. So you may know, if you're a longer-term listener, that a few months ago I went to Thailand and I spent 2 weeks learning Thai intensively. Now, one of the great things I did in Thailand was I made a daily YouTube video documenting my experience of learning Thai. You can see me on day 1 and on day 14, including a long conversation in Thai with my tutor at the end of that. So if you haven't seen that, then definitely go and check that out. You can find my YouTube channel by going to youtube.com. Well, actually just go to YouTube and search for Olly Richards. That's the best thing to do, and you'll find that there. I'll put a link to that in the show notes as well. And I was really pleased with the amount of progress that I made in those 2 weeks. And I think a lot of people actually wrote to me after that and they said, you've really kind of made me, just kind of galvanized me a little bit and given me a bit of a motivational boost for my Thai or for some other language, because it's kind of clear, really, when you look at this kind of project, that in a very short space of time you can achieve a lot. But I don't want to talk about that so much, because I've covered that in a previous podcast episode. What I'm more interested in and what I've been thinking about, what I was thinking about in the airport in Heathrow this morning, actually, was what's happened since then. Because if I have achieved what I did in those 2 weeks learning Thai, well, what should have happened over the last 3 months since then? I should be pretty damn fluent by now, right? Of course I'm not. If anything, I feel like I've slipped backwards. And when I decided to leave Thailand and go back to London, I always knew, to be honest, and I did discuss this in some of the videos, but I always knew that Thai wasn't going to be something I would keep up as a kind of primary language, because I was focusing on Cantonese, and I still am. And I decided that with Thai, what I would do is initially I thought I might have a lesson every 2 weeks or something and just spend an hour speaking. Instead, I actually decided to contact my teacher from Thailand and actually have a weekly lesson. So now we have a weekly lesson, and every Friday morning I sit down and I speak Thai for an hour with her, and it's great. I've also been focusing on reading the Thai alphabet, and I can now pretty much read Thai. I think there's a few consonants I still haven't learned, but so that's the kind of the level of studying that I've been doing. Having achieved what I did in those 2 weeks, and got to a kind of basic conversational fluency level. I mean, very basic, but conversational nonetheless. I have done basically 1 hour a week of lesson, and then maybe half an hour once or twice during the week of homework. Now, here's the interesting thing. I mean, I don't know how much language study you do on a weekly basis. Maybe you're kind of listening to this thinking, well, yeah, that's about what I do, or maybe you do a little bit more. Hopefully you don't do any less. But during busy periods, you might. Here's the thing. From the 1 hour lesson a week I have, and then with the little bits of homework I do, I feel that not only have I made very little progress, but I've actually slipped backwards, and I've forgotten a lot of the stuff that I did learn when I was in Thailand. Now, it's very interesting for me to see this happen. And because, usually when I study a language, I just study one language and I go at it fairly intensively. So I'm studying every day, having multiple speaking sessions throughout the week. Not the case with Thai. And I have been shocked, actually, at just how much I've forgotten. And more to the point, how little progress I've made. The one tangible thing I have done is to learn to read and write Thai, which obviously should not be underestimated. And my homework time has actually been spent learning to read and write. So it's possible that if I had decided not to learn to read, then I might have done better. But nevertheless, it's far from stellar, the progress that I've made. Now, I think it's just really, this experience has really reinforced in me the fact that the language that you're learning needs to be a lifestyle choice. It needs to be something that you're working at every day. So when I'm on the tube in London or on a bus or whatever, and I have a bit of free time, I don't practice Thai. I practice Cantonese. That's my main language. And so I don't have this daily attention that I'm bringing to Thai, and I think that's what it is. That's what's causing the problem. Whenever I sit down to do a bit of study, or whenever I have my lesson every week, it's like, wow, I have to completely reset my brain because I just haven't looked at it, haven't thought about it during the week. Now, in my particular case, I'm not. That's actually fine for me because my main objective with Thai really is actually to keep it ticking over until I go back to Thailand, hopefully next year, and I might have another intensive study period. So I don't mind this progress. Obviously, I'd like to have more, but that's not the case, and that's fine. I think the thing I really want to say is that thing about the lifestyle, the fact that you have to the language that you're learning needs to be the thing that your attention goes to whenever you have a free minute during the day. Whenever you want to relax and watch a film, whenever you're kind of sitting on the train and you have a bit of free time, whenever you think about a friend and you want to send a message to them. When your attention goes to the language on a regular basis, you learn and you improve and you get used to the language. That's where progress comes from. I've felt a lot of progress in my Cantonese over the last few months because that's what I've been spending my time on. Not the case with Thai. So what I think I'd do is really encourage you to think about the language you're learning and think about the time that you spend with it. If you have days on end where you don't do anything, that's the first thing you should fix. If you tend to binge learn at the weekend, then you should spread it out a little bit throughout the week. If you find yourself sitting in the car or sitting on the train or the bus or whatever, staring into space or out the window, then that's time that you should be using to, even if it's kind of browsing through your flashcards, the attention and the repetition and the ongoing time that you spend with the language is what is going to contribute to you making progress and becoming fluent. So that's my rant over for today. I probably bored all of you to death, but I thought that it was quite interesting because these reflections sometimes can maybe, although they might be a little bit rambling, can hopefully form a connection with some of you in a way that a regular podcast episode doesn't. So I hope that was interesting. If I've connected with a few people, that message resonates at all, then that will be time well spent. So that's what I got for you. If you have a question for me, if you'd like to ask me a question, please go to iwillteachyoualanguage.com/ask, and you can leave me a voicemail question like I usually play on the episodes, and I'll answer that for you. Also, if you've had any value from these episodes, from the podcast in general, I'd really appreciate a review on iTunes. Not many people do this because I think they guess that other people will just do it instead. But actually, it really, really helps. So if you've got an iPhone, or if you've got access to iTunes and you'd like to help me out by leaving a review, then please do. You can go to iTunes and simply search for I Will Teach You a Language and you will find the show. Otherwise, you can go to iwillteachyoualanguage.com/review for that. I'm going to Hong Kong in 10 days' time, and I can't wait. This is my next big language project, really. I've got 2 months in Hong Kong, at least. I might extend, but the current state of play is I've got 2 months in Hong Kong. And I intend to study the hell out of Cantonese. This is really... I've been plodding along with this language now for a couple of years. It's make or break time for me now. I really feel like I need to make some serious progress. It's now or never. So, follow along on YouTube and Instagram. That's where all the action is going to be happening. Regular videos, regular posts, and clips of things and stuff and weird whatever that I find in Hong Kong. I'll put links to that in the show notes. You'll be able to find them at iwillteachyoualanguage.com/episode 149. So if you're not subscribed to those social media channels, then that's the place where you'll find the links to do that. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode of the podcast.